Hey guys, it's Trey here at Ag Central, and today I'm going to be going over 5 tips for maintenance to help your mower stay at tip-top shape throughout all seasons. The first thing I'm going to go over, guys, is changing your oil and your oil filter. Depending on how you use your mower, depends on how many hours you should really change it. So this mower, for example, this is an oil guard system. They claim you don't need to change your oil for every 500 hours. I don't necessarily believe in that myself. I always say if you're running one of these engines, change it every 200, just because that oil is going to get thin over time and can cause problems down the road after you get so many hours on the machine. And of course, it always varies between mower to mower. I would always personally change my engine oil from 50 to 100 hours. If you're a private user, I would change it every 100 hours. If you're professional, I change every 50. Professionals, they're a little bit harder on their mowers and more hours per time on their mower. If you're a private user, you mow once a week or maybe twice a week if you're keeping the lawn really short. I would change it every 100. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about in this, cleaning your air filters. The biggest thing is if you can tell from this filter and this filter is a huge difference. Now, if you clean these, I would recommend every 50 hours or every 2 to 3 cuts. It's not that hard to do. The biggest thing is blowing them out from the inside out. So if you blow them from the outside in, then you're trapping all that inside the inside filter. Another thing is if you have a filter that's a little bit bent or corroded on the outside of this screen, I would also recommend replacing that too, just because this can restrict airflow and cause problems. The biggest thing I see with this is overheating issues. Say you're mowing, 8 hours a day, 5 times a week. I'd recommend blowing it out every 2 days or so. The only reason I say that is because if you're mowing some really tall grass, that can cause your engine to overheat, not get enough airflow. That can cause valve seats to drop and a lot more issues remaining. The third thing I'd like to talk to you guys about today is changing your hydraulic fluid. This is almost the legs, you would say, of your zero-turn lawnmower and any lawnmower in general that you may own. I would recommend changing your oil if you're a professional landscaper every 200 hours, just because these transaxles are going to have a lot of pressure on them over time, day in, day out. If you're a private user, I'd recommend changing it between 250 to 260, especially if you're not on really rough terrain other than like maybe your yard or your backyard. It really depends on what kind of terrain you're on. If you're on some really rough farmland, I would recommend going up towards that 200 mark, around 220, I would say. But if you're a professional, I would definitely change it every 200. This fluid is going to disintegrate after a long period of time. I wouldn't recommend changing this like you would in your engine oil. It's not that needed. It's almost like transmission fluid in a vehicle. The biggest thing about it is, though, make sure you change this so you don't have any leaky seals. Transaxles cost a lot of money, guys, and that's something that's really preventable and will save you a lot of money in the future. The fourth tip I want to give you guys is greasing. The biggest thing about greasing is if you have a spindle or a front fork, that grease is going to save the components for hours on hours on end. I've seen good grease machines go up to 3,000 hours with not having an issue. I've seen 500-hour machines have spindle issues, front fork issues, and stuff of that sort. Each machine's going to have different grease points on it, so just check in your manual where that will be at on your machine. I would recommend greasing between every 30 to 50 hours depending on how you're using your mower. If you're running it a lot, I would also grease it a lot. The fifth thing I want to talk about today, guys, is fuel. One of the biggest issues I see coming into the shop is fuel issues. And mostly it's because of winter hour mowers. The biggest thing that you can possibly do to save your fuel problems is drain your tanks. If you drain your tanks in the winter, that resolves gummed up carburetors and sticking injectors. Personally, what I like to do when I drain my fuel system is drain out all the fuel out of either the carburetor bowl or out of the fuel injector pump. The way I do that is I drain all the fuel out of the tank, take my line off, make sure I have no fuel in any of my lines, and then crank it approximately 6 to 7 seconds to get all the fuel out of the bowl or set injectors, and that resolves your issue with fuel. And an honorable mention I want to talk to you guys about is adjusting valves. Personally, depending on what kind of mower you have, you may have adjustable or non-adjustable valves. You'll have to check with your manual on that. Most mowers have adjustable valves. A lot of the colors do not. A lot of them are hydraulic lifters, so you cannot adjust them. You'll have to replace them with new. The biggest thing is if you don't have good adjusted valves, your push rods will become loose over a matter of time, and that can cause a lot of issues from bending push rods to messing up the whole entire head. If you do not have adjustable valves, look in your manual spec. Most engines that have adjustable valves adjust out to 5 to 6 thousandths, depending on what your make and model is. Remember, always go by the manual, depending on what kind of mower you have. Guys, I've seen mowers that are serviced properly go over 2,700 hours personally in the shop. I've seen mowers come in that have 300 to 400 hours on them that are in pretty rough shape. It all depends on how you treat your mower throughout all seasons. Just keep in mind the 4 tips I told you, and your mower should last a long time for you. If you have any issues, you can always call Ag Central. We're located in Lexington, Kentucky, and we're happy to answer any questions.